We spoke to you like a day or two after you got here. It was interesting because we were talking about how transactional it could be to be a baseball player, if you remember.
Oh, yeah.
And how does it feel to just go from where you were at that point to like how you feel like family now, and these guys have become basically like brothers to you?
I loved it because this offseason I trained with Sean and Pete, and like Bader was with us. Like, so it was a lot of familiarity, like guys that like I clicked with well during the season, and we got to train together. And obviously Sean and Pete are back. There was such a good group of people together last year that it made the season a lot of fun. Obviously we played really well. Like, if the clubhouse is bad, it shows on the field a lot of times. Being able to come back and be a part of that again was definitely something that I was hopeful for and I'm looking forward to again.
Did you guys train before you all signed?
Yeah, we were all together as like free agents throughout from start to finish. Sean signed, and then
was Sean trying to get you guys to come back?
It was stuff that we had talked about. If I could be sick to run it back.
And then the two of you on Pete, and then you guys are like, Pete, come on, let's come back.
Yeah, it got to that point. I was like, Pete, dude, like.
Hey, welcome to Meet at the Apple. I'm Vito Calisi. That's Jonathan Barron. We're here with Ryne Stanek. And Ryan, you are the talk of, I think, the whole tent right now, because when you pull up, everybody knows because you're in the war machine, your car. Can you just explain to people what you're driving right now?
Yeah, it's the first time I've gotten a new car since I think I got traded the first time. So 2019 is the first time I bought anything new, and yeah, I bought a custom built like TRX. So it's pretty mean right now.
Well, we're glad to see you here. You were a free agent this offseason. You re-signed with the Mets, and you spoke a couple days ago to the media, and you talked about, yeah, it's a good team, and that's great, but also the family care that the Mets show. Can you talk a little bit more about that and expand on that?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's something where like, it's a little different when you start with a team and you kind of get the vibe from spring training and you kind of like flow through the season, and they make you feel like included from spring training on. You get a different vibe. But like getting traded over mid-season from the other half of the country, like then trying to like get situated, and they did a really good job like making my family feel welcome. Like, the baseball part of it is not the easy part, but it's the part that like we're most used to. So like that doesn't feel like a foreign thing. But obviously New York is a kind of a different beast in its own. So like finding housing, like getting everything situated, making the family feel comfortable, that made a really big difference to us. Like, obviously I have two small kids. Like it's not the easiest transition, and they did an unbelievable job, like showing them love, taking care of them, like making sure that's not something that I have to be like worried about all the time. Like they did a lot to help that out.
And you know, we spoke to you like a day or two after you got here, and it was interesting because we were talking about how transactional it could be to be a baseball player, if you remember.
Oh yeah.
And how does it feel to just go from where you were at that point to like how you feel like family now, and these guys have become basically like brothers to you?
Yeah, no, it's pretty great. I loved it because this offseason I trained with Sean and Pete, and like Bader was with us. Like, so it was a lot of familiarity, like guys that like I clicked with well during the season, and we got to train together. And obviously Sean and Pete are back. So like it's really cool. Like, there was such a good group of people together last year that it made the season a lot of fun. Obviously we played really well. Like, there was a lot of like really good things that happened on the field, but like in the clubhouse, like if the clubhouse is bad, it shows on the field a lot of times. So yeah, being able to come back and be a part of that again was definitely something that I was like hopeful for and I'm looking forward to again.
And on the baseball, I know you said the baseball is the baseball.
Yeah.
When you came over here, you said at the time you felt like something was a little bit off mechanically, something wasn't right. And the Mets believed in your process and you believed in their process. And I know there was an outing you had in Toronto where I think you struck out the heart of the Blue Jays order. And Jeremy Hefner said after the game, "That's the Ryne Stanek I know." So without giving away too many of the proprietary secrets, what did the Mets do? What did the staff do with you and so many other guys also to help you hone your skills and be the best that you could be?
I think a lot of it was like they felt and like told me they believed in what I can do. They understood like what my stuff is supposed to be, and like it wasn't where it was supposed to be when I first got here, and we kind of just got down to the nuts and bolts of like my delivery, and like some body positioning things, and I wasn't like mechanically like where I had been over the course of my career, like when I'd been good. So we kind of tinkered with a couple things, and basically we made a couple adjustments mechanically, and everything kind of straightened out, and my stuff went back to what it's supposed to be. And like it's such a fine line, like between like being too overly invested in like mechanics and like being like free and like letting it work versus like, okay, you're not within your guardrails of like, I guess, acceptable range and like the way you move. And I was kind of outside that, so it affected a lot of things. And they're basically like, hey, we adjust these, we get back into like where you should be at, and everything kind of like synced back up. And it was a small change, but it was something that like, if they weren't like on top of their stuff, like with the biomech people and the pitching guys being on the same page, and the training staff, everybody worked together and was trying to help me be the best version of me. And we figured out like a really good plan. And yeah, it was really good. I appreciate what they did a lot, because it was something that I couldn't feel in the moment. And like once they kind of showed me the numbers to back it, I was like, oh wow, that was a dumb thing that I did. But like in the flow of things, you don't have a ton of time to work on those kind of adjustments in season, because you don't want to tinker something and something go worse, or like whatever the thing may be. So it was a very clear process. We were trying to accomplish like a couple things. Once those things were back on track, everything else kind of cleaned up, and it was substantially better.
So they got you back to the guy who was dominant for many years before joining the Mets. And I got some Ryne Stanek trivia. And maybe you know this, but maybe the listeners don't. I don't know if Vito does, so I'm going to throw it out there. Do you know you've pitched in the postseason in each of the past 5 years, going back to 2020 as a member of the Marlins?
Yep.
Then you went to Houston, I believe. Mm-hmm. And also, do you know that you've reached at least the LCS in the past 4 years, each of the past 4 seasons?
Yep. Yeah.
This man's the key, folks. That's what I'm getting at. That's what I'm getting at.
It's a lot of extra baseball.
You're not kidding. I mean, even for us, like, there's a lot of planning that goes into every season. Mm-hmm. And when you lose October, not lose October, I mean, you want October.
Yeah, you want it, but it's like, it's a lot of extra baseball, and you're losing a full month of the off season. So it's like the runway into spring training gets a little shorter.
You said you were training with Pete, Sean, Bader. Mm-hmm. Now, 3 of you guys came back on your choice this year. Mm-hmm. Was that part of the conversation in the offseason while you guys were training together?
I mean, it wasn't like, hey, let's run it back. Like, it was like, but like, it was definitely something where like, we all obviously enjoyed our time.
Did you guys train before you all signed?
Yeah, we were all together as like free agents throughout from start to finish.
So was there a domino effect where you were training one, then like you signed, or Sean signed,
and then
was Sean trying to get you guys to come back?
It was stuff that we had talked about. Like, it'd be sick to run it back, and then
the two of you on Pete, and then you guys were like, Pete, come on, let's come back.
Yeah, it got to that point. I was like, Pete, dude, like.
So there is, I mean, a lot of fans wonder, like, you know, people have relationships and there's friendships, but do guys communicate even during a free agency process?
It depends. It's a weird fine line. You don't want to be like, I don't appreciate everybody being up in my business all the time, but like, and I'm sure other guys are like that way too. So you get to the point where you're boys and you want to like talk about it and see how they're doing, like, because like the free agency part is like, it's not glamorous for most, like they're the handful of guys that like are gonna get what they're supposed to get always, like it's easy. Like there's a handful of guys that like, regardless of whatever happens in the offseason, like they're gonna get what they're supposed to get, and then it's like everybody else. And yeah, it's not something you want to pry too much, because some people handle it really, really well, and some people get really stressed out, and some people are like always like worried about like the unknown, because there's a lot of that. And like realistically, you could go from Seattle to Tampa, or Southern California to New York, or everywhere in between. Like you're span, like the way of living is so different wherever you choose. The culture is completely different wherever you choose. Like there's so many factors that go into it that like it's a big decision whenever you're trying to like move your family like all over. Like it's like there's a lot of thought that goes into it, and it's not as fun always as you expect free agency to be when like you get to it.
Ryne, thanks so much for joining us. Look forward to talking to you more throughout the year. You were one of our favorite interviews we did last year. We've talked about it a bunch of times. But guys, follow us on Twitter at Vito F. Khaleesi, at JMB9191. Ryne Stanek, thanks for meeting us at the Apple.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Ryne.